Hey everybody, this is part 2 of a series that we're looking at socially efficient and socially inefficient market outcomes, okay? Now, to catch you up, here's the deal. Why are we focused on market outcomes and whether they are socially efficient or socially inefficient? Here is the reason. There is 2 basic ways to decide some really important economic questions. What are those economic questions? They are what we're going to produce, who's going to produce it, how are we going to produce it, and who's going to get it, okay? Those 4 really important questions are decided in one of 2 ways. One is the government. The government decides that. And here in the United States, we have some goods. The government is deciding those really important questions, okay? What are those goods? National security, public safety, education, at least K through 12 education, generally speaking at least. And then we have markets as our way to decide those questions. And in the United States, like most countries out there, we have markets at the base of so much of our economic activity. So we want to really investigate how good a job do markets do on those questions, okay? Now, before I go any further, yes, we do need to investigate at some point how government does on those questions, but right now, we're focused on markets. Why markets? Because again, so many goods and services, we have markets at the base of deciding that question, okay? Now, here's the deal. We're defining socially efficient market outcomes as ones that maximize social surplus. And that is a super high bar, super hard to actually achieve, okay? And I want to say, guys, if markets come really close, left alone, we might leave them alone even if they don't perfectly maximize social surplus, okay? But oftentimes we might find markets fall quite short of that bar, and then we probably want to intervene in those markets, okay? We might keep markets at the base, as we often do, but then intervene. Is there a way government can intervene in those markets to push those market actors to an output level that is more appropriate, okay? So, socially efficient, maximizing social surplus. Socially inefficient outcomes, we're going to say, hey, those experience dead weight loss. And what is dead weight loss? The amount by which we fall short of maximum social surplus. Now, here's the deal. In this video, we're going to be looking at that word efficiency in a little more detail than maybe you will in a lot of your microeconomics classes out there, but I think it's worthwhile. Here's the deal. Economists, when they talk about the word efficiency, especially when it comes to market activity, they're focused on 3 types of efficiency, generally speaking. That's right, not just 1, 3 types of efficiency. They're focused on productive efficiency. You know, many of us have heard of this. This is producing in the least costly way, okay? When it comes to market-based activities, remember we've got decentralized suppliers making decisions based on their private cost. When it comes to that situation, we want those market actors to try to be focused on cost, of reducing waste, right? We want to produce in the least costly way. Then there is distributive efficiency. We want the goods distributed to those who value them the most, okay? And this is going to be really interesting when we talk about distributive efficiency today, because there's some good sides to the markets and some bad side to markets when it comes to distributive efficiency, getting those goods distributed to those who value it the most. Then there is allocative efficiency. What is allocative efficiency? We've allocated the right amount of resources to the production of the good. This is we're producing the right amount of the good. We've allocated the right amount of resources. We haven't over-allocated resources to the production of the good. We haven't under-allocated resources to the production of the good. We've allocated the right amount of resources to the production of the good. We're making the right amount. Now, a lot of people will say allocative efficiency and maximum social surplus are synonyms. To me, they're actually not synonyms, okay? This is I've allocated the right amount of resources to the production of the good, but I still need to be productively efficient. I need to use those resources in the least costly way, okay? So that I produce the right amount of the good. And then I still need to distribute those goods so that they go to those who value them the most. I like to say you have to be all 3 of these, check mark, check mark, check mark, to get to maximum social surplus. Now, we're going to focus on how markets handle, all 3 of these in this video, especially these 2. And our tool is going to be price controls. That's right, price controls are not market-based interventions. They're commands upon the market, okay? They're command regulations. They're controlling prices. And prices, well, that's a really important thing for markets. And markets, when we talk about market-based economies, we think of prices as coordinating economic activity. So we generally want prices to be flexible. And here we are coming in and controlling prices. And we want to see what is the outcome of controlling prices. So let's get to it. Price ceiling. That's a maximum price. I want my price ceiling to be binding because it's only interesting when it's binding. So I've drawn my price ceiling below price equilibrium. So it's going to bind the market, okay? The price can fluctuate in between, but it can't get where that price is going to want to get, at least where the market's going to want that price to get to clear the market. It's going to just get to right here, okay? It can't get to price equilibrium. So it's a binding price ceiling. So there's my price ceiling. Now, with that price control, we would say this distance right here is our quantity supplied, okay? So price hits supply right there, so we're only going to produce this amount of the good. But at that price, all the way to here is my quantity demanded, okay? So I've got my quantity supplied and quantity demanded. Now here's the deal. Yes, more is going to be demanded than supplied, but you can only consume what is supplied, right? So I'm actually going to also put a QC to remind us that's what's going to be consumed. Nothing's going to be consumed to this side. Now, the first question I'm going to have is, are we going to be productively efficient with this price ceiling? And generally speaking, we would say yes, and here's why. The producers, only the producers who have a cost of production below PC are going to survive, okay? Meaning I have to, it's only the lowest cost producers that are going to survive. To stylize the world a little bit, imagine that was a producer and that was a producer and that was a producer. Now what do I mean by that? The circle isn't actually a producer. What I mean by that is there's dots that make up this line, right? Each of those dots hover over an output right there. And I'm saying, hey, this is our most efficient firm out there, our second most efficient, our third most efficient firm, okay? And then our fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth. Well, price is going to make it so the only firms that are going to produce this good are going to be firm 1, 2, and 3, the ones that have the lowest cost. And again, I'm stylizing the world. There's probably a lot of overlap, but it's not too much to ask to think that, hey, you know what? If we look behind the curtain of a bunch of businesses, they're probably not equally efficient at what they're doing, right? So price is making it so only the lowest cost producers survive. But on the demand side, something else is very interesting. If we're only producing this is all we're consuming, so I'm going to draw this line straight up. And a lot of times what we'll say in an economics class is this right here is going to be our consumer surplus. But I think it's really important to say this right here is our maximum consumer surplus, and we are probably almost definitely not going to get all of it. Why is that? Because price is not fully rationing the good anymore, okay? What do I mean by that? Well, this is also made up of a bunch of dots, right? That demand curve, there's a bunch of dots, and you think of like, that's just, each dot is a person's, is a person's benefit they put on a good. Well, who's now going to try to actually buy it? Who is both willing and able to buy the good? Who's going to try to buy the good? Well, it's going to be everybody to right there. Okay, they have been, rationed out of the market by price. But all these dots are people that are going to try to buy the good, which is why we say when it comes to price ceilings, hey, they create shortages, and that's right, they're going to create shortages, and then something else is going to ration the good because, guys, something always rations the good. We can use price to ration the good. If we don't, something else will. What's going to step in and ration this good? Well, it could be networks, like just who knows, people that could, that are suppliers of the good. Could be information. Who has better information? Could be proximity. Who's closer to the good? Oftentimes it's wait times, okay? So we can have wait times, okay? Those things are now going to ration it. And guess what? Those things, by and large, in no way tell us who values the good the most, okay? So to bring this home, this person represented, there's a person represented by that dot, and this would there be their consumer surplus if they got the good. And you might be thinking, well, they're not going to get the good. Well, hold on a second. Here's another dot. This represents another person. Okay, this is their benefit of the good. This is their cost. So this would be their consumer surplus. Okay, I am saying that some of the people over here on this portion of the demand curve are just about, it's almost for sure, some of them are going to get the good. And for any one of these that end up getting the good, one of the people represented by their dots over here are not going to get the good, okay? And so what would happen if the person represented by this dot gets the good and not this dot? Consumer surplus would shrink to right there. We would only get that, all right? And so here's what I'd say is, if you kind of look at this, yeah, maybe the person by this dot actually does get the good, but then the person that represents this dot is, beaten by this person over here, or just gets there faster, or just has more time to stand in line, and so they don't get it, but this person does, and theirs is just like this. But then this person does get the good, and then it looks like this. And what I want you to kind of see, that's kind of ugly right there, let's try and fix it, is something that kind of looks like this. Yeah, we get some of those full bars, but then we get some smaller bars in there, and we don't get all of that. The good is not distributed to those who value it the most. Now, there's even more complexity here, okay? Now, what do we mean at first when we say those who value it the most? Those whose expected benefit from the good, and this is a benefit line made up of dots that's estimating their bestment or showing their benefit, their expected benefit, don't get the good. Those who put the highest expected benefit on the good don't get the good. We're not distributively efficient. But the complexity is demand is not just based on willingness to buy the good. It's based on ability. So what I'm trying to say, and it's complex, guys, is in one way we want price to ration the good. Price is not rationing the good. Other things are going to step in: networks, wait times, proximity, information. Other things are going to step in. Oftentimes those things are going to have no correlation with the benefit the consumer puts on the good, and we don't like that. And so we're going to get this messy thing where we don't get all of this area but just a portion of that area, okay? But at the same time, when price fully rations the good, there's still an issue, and the issue is demand. Every one of these dots is not just based on the willingness, which you might call the expected benefit. It's based on the ability to buy the good. And that ability is an issue because in market-based economies, we have income inequality issues, right? And so when it comes to needs, okay, we might not like price fully rationing the good, even though we often say price rationing the good leads to distributive efficiency. Well, that's the case if we don't have any income inequality, but we know that we do. So if you're feeling unsatisfied with what I just said, you should, because there's no perfect answer here. Price helps ration the good. It helps us achieve some level of distributive efficiency, but at the same time, price has a drawback. And the problem with price is, hey, those that don't have the ability might not get it even if they really value the good. And guys, there's just nothing I can do. It's just a messy situation when it comes to distributive efficiency. But I want you to see price controls don't necessarily fix anything, okay? It just makes it get rationed in some other way that normally has often has less correlation with who values the good the most. Now, let's go to a price floor, okay? A price floor is a price maximum. And if you're still with me in this video, fantastic, okay? Now, here's the interesting thing. Generally, economists will say when you put in a price floor, you will remain distributively efficient. Why will you remain distributively efficient? Because only people represented by this portion of the demand curve are going to get it, and they are the one that put the highest benefit on the good. They're the ones that put the highest benefit, so you're distributively efficient. Price is rationing the good when it comes to the distribution of the good. Again, in our minds, we got to keep in the back of it, hey, but how about the income inequality? How about people don't have the ability? You're exactly right, okay? So that still is at play, but we can't really solve it completely with our graphs. We can just talk about the complexity that exists. Now, on the productive efficiency side, okay? Again, I want to divide up this line and say, I am stylizing the world a little bit here, but that's a producer, 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 that's a producer. And what I mean by that is, again, there's just thousands of dots and thousands of dots and thousands of dots. What I'm saying is this firm is the most productively efficient, the second most productively efficient, the third most productively efficient. Now let me draw this down because that's going to be an important thing. That's going to be the quantity demanded, okay? And then our fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. It's really important to understand that it is actually profitable for all 7 of those firms because the price is up here, okay? And that marginal cost has everything in it from the producer standpoint. It's got the explicit and the implicit cost in there. And so, hey, price is higher than their cost of production, both explicit and implicit. It is profitable for all of them. We cannot assume that this firm, and this firm are going to be the ones that actually produce the goods. And what am I saying? I'm saying, look, if we have that price floor in there, and this is all that we're going to demand, guys, we're not going to be able to produce out here year after year after year after year. Businesses are going to go out of business because of this price floor. That's what's going to happen. And who's going to go out of business is not based on productive efficiency, because again, it is profitable for all of them because the price is higher. So who's going to go out of business? The ones that have the worst advertising or marketing or perhaps location. It's going to be something else besides price that's deciding what's producing or who's producing the good. Okay, and we might say, hey, that's fine. I don't mind it's the advertiser, the better marketer, okay? Fine, that's true. But again, you could end up with a situation that 5, 6, and 7 end up producing the good, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 don't, and that's not productively efficient. We want to be productively efficient. We want the lowest cost producers to produce the good, else we're going to have some waste in there, okay? So, what's the big point going on here? There's 3 types of efficiency. We got to produce the good in the lowest possible, at the lowest possible cost. We need to hopefully try to distribute the good to those that value it the most, and we need to produce the right amount of the good. And if we do all 3 of those, then we will maximize social surplus. Markets, which allocate resources based on price, which coordinate economic activity based on price. Markets, okay, have some benefits in trying to achieve all of these. If price is determining who's making it, we're probably going to be productively efficient, generally speaking. If price is determining who's going to get it, well, it's going to be messy. In a way, at least, only those who put their benefits above the price will get it. But hey, we still have that income inequality. And hopefully they get us close to allocative efficiency, but that's a whole different deal when we get into other types of market failures that aren't going to be part of this video. Just wanted you to kind of get some idea of those efficiencies and how markets have some benefits when it comes to those efficiencies, but some drawbacks. Hope that made sense to you. We'll see you in the next video.